Hello, and welcome to the January 8th meeting of the Historic District Commission. Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Looks like we've got some crazy wind outside and some flashing lights. Hopefully our electricity will stay on. I'm going to introduce everybody. We have a couple people running late. As far as I know, they're coming. But on my far right is Dr. Dan Brown.
Good evening.
We've got Martin Ryan.
Good evening.
Vice Chair Margot Doring.
Hello.
I'm the Chair Reagan Rudig. We have Isaac Gilbo from the Planning Department.
Good evening.
John Wyckoff.
Good evening.
And David Adams.
Good evening.
And
Rich.
Here is Rich Blaylock, who is our City Council representative, coming up now. And Larry Booz, our alternate, will be coming in a little bit late. All right, so before I read through the agenda, I'll say the board's action in these matters has been deemed to be quasi-judicial in nature. If any person believes any member of the board has a conflict of interest, that issue should be raised at this point, or it will be deemed waived. We have a short but weird agenda, or abnormal. It's not necessarily weird. It's unusual for what we usually have, but we'll get through all of these. I know. I don't know what to do about
They
this.
did it Monday night too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why didn't they fix it?
All right, first, we have the approval of minutes from the December 4th, 2024 meeting. Does anybody have any corrections or comments on that? All right.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, thank you. And then we have 5 administrative approvals that we'll let Isaac take us through.
All right, just 1 second. Let me get my screen on. Oops. There we go. All right, so we have 5 administrative approval items this evening. The first is at 33 Jewel Court. The applicant here is seeking approval to swap out 2 third-level windows for necessary vents for a new heating and cooling system. They were here last month. There was some question on the sizing of the vents and if we could keep some of the original trim work from the windows. I believe that the applicants have been able to find a way to make that work and to appease the board. Do we have someone who might be able to speak to just those quick changes?
We have 4 options.
Was there only 4?
Good evening, Richard Desjardins with Portsmouth Architects. I'll just quickly run through the 4 options for you. Option 1 is the option that we presented. Actually, let me give you a little bit more context first. After further discovery with the windows themselves, these are replacement windows that were replaced in 1997 with 6/6 Harvey wood double hung windows. One thing that we think we might not have presented properly was the fact that the arched part of the window is actually an infilled portion from when they were replaced previously, so it's not part of the window frame itself. Those are 2 separate pieces. And moving forward, option 1 is what we presented last month, which is replacing the window in its entirely, frame and all, leaving that arched portion, and then essentially infilling that with a standard louver size with a small flange around the perimeter to pretty much butt it up to the inside of the window opening. On sheet A4, you will see details of that particular option. Option 2 is the option that the board recommended us explore, which was keeping the window frame and just removing the sashes and then placing the louver within this frame. On sheet A5, you will see that depicted. One thing that the design team and contractor are worried about in this particular scenario is weather tightness, since this is a very atypical construction detail, placing a louver within a wood window frame. And then moving forward with that, option 3, which is an option that we would really only explore is if you required it, which is essentially option 2 with a replicated 6/6, essentially two sashes 6/6 in front of the louver, made out of aluminum, just to give it an appearance of a window in front of the louver itself. And then option 4, which is another option that we personally, or the design team, does not want to really move forward with unless you require us to, is to pretty much create 2 new masonry openings within the elevation itself to pretty much provide the smallest louver size possible. This would cause saw cutting into the brick and possibly repointing around the lintel area and replacing broken and damaged brick during that process. On sheet A2, you can see some precedent images of the Frank Jones Brewery immediately next door, of essentially this particular path moving forward, of which is what we're trying to avoid. The top left image really does showcase that pretty well. So in our opinion, option 4 really is not how we would like to move forward. However, with options 1, 2, and 3, it does allow us to revert back and place windows back into these openings if there is ever a change of use in the future. If anyone has any other questions, I'm happy to answer them. Any of the mechanical calculation backups are in here to show that the louvers are appropriately sized, so I'm open to any questions if the board has any.
So you feel that option number 1 is going to be the best for the building in terms of weather tightness and protecting the brick from
Yes.
intrusion of water?
Yes.
Yes, John?
I prefer, I believe it's option 2, which was on A5, which is leaving the wooden frame from the window and placing the louvers within that aluminum frame. As far as weather tightness, I mean, with some of the urethane caulking they have now, et cetera, I mean, the vent would be no worse than putting a window there, having a window there. And with that option, in case this doesn't work out and 5 years from now somebody wants to put windows back in, guess what? The frame is still there. So I'm for that one.
Anyone else? Yes, Martin?
I have to agree. Option 2 is probably your best. I have to applaud the amount of work you put into this just to show us what's possible. I think you're trying to scare us with option 4, though.
Worked.
Yeah. So I applaud that. Option 2 is probably the best in terms of preservation.
Anybody else?
Excuse me, if you don't mind. Mark from Mark Genetti. I just wanted to add, the only reason that we weren't recommending option 2, we certainly think it's, constructible, it's feasible, was because since it's a 1990s replacement window, we weren't looking at that as trying to save anything that was historical in this instance, but just that.
All right, Mr. Adams?
I agree with the commissioners that believe option 2 is a better example of putting a louver into an existing building.
Just for clarity, you're saying you don't recommend option 2, is what you're saying?
Correct. Well, we're recommending option 1 as opposed to option 2.
Yeah, I mean, either one works. We're not recommending option 2 only because it's already in a replacement window. So saving the frame from a 1990s replacement window doesn't have the same meaning as saving, a 50-year-old or 100-year-old window frame. But we're happy to do either. They both work.
But option one doesn't build off the existing old frame. It
It would
kind of,
remove the old frame, correct?
and kind of duplicates it.
No.
No, it's just flush
No,
right
it
to
would
the.
just be, we would just be, we would be moving everything to the masonry opening and inserting a buck and then the louver.
All right.
All right. Well, do we want to vote on this one separately and then go through, or
Yeah.
just note that we note the,
I'll note the option.
So
Right. I
we
mean,
have to remove this?
no, I guess, I mean, if we're just, if the stipulation is going to be that we want option 2, we can just have that.
Yep.
I honestly don't see how anyone, you're not going to be able to see any wood framing in there, and I also question the future lifespan of wood frame from the 90s. It's not going to be great wood, but if that is the flavor of the commission, then we can.
Could we just stipulate option 2?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Item number 2 is at 93 Pleasant Street. This project is sort of nearing completion. One of the original items that was asked to come back to the commission for a more formal review, and when it came time, was for the metal awnings that are on the building. They have a previously approved option, and then they also have a mock-up option that they would like to move forward with. So they would be hoping for the mock-up as built, and they have installed one of them just so we could see how that would look on the building itself, and then they've shown an elevation where all 3 floors have the awnings.
Well, that's nice. Where's the mock-up?
On the side toward the temple?
So this is the design of the mock-up, and then, John, this would be on the top right here. This would be the actual elevations with the mock-up.
Did anyone have any questions or concerns? Is this okay?
I would just state that it's similar to what we had seen earlier, and
Yep.
it looks like I expected, and I can accept it.
Okay.
Okay, great. All right, we'll move right along. Item number 3 is 50 South School Street, unit number 4. There's an interior renovation going on. They're doing work in the kitchen, and so there is the need for a new hood exhaust vent. In most cases, these are exempt. However, this one, because of how the building is situated, it is rather visible if you're walking right by. So I just wanted to make sure that the commission could review and approve. Essentially, the location of the vent is highlighted in this photo with the V. It's a pretty standard vent.
Yeah, Isaac, that was my only question, the size and the shape. Is it similar to the one below it? Because this already has several vents
Yeah.
hanging off of it.
Yes. As far as the sizing, I'm not seeing that in the application.
Can't tell if it's a light or a vent.
Is there somebody in the audience who could speak to this particular project just to
2 inches.
give a dimension on the vent?
Vent proposal.
I mean, I think we can probably
Similar in
stipulate
size.
that it is
Be the same size.
similar to,
Similar size to the venting that's already on that
Right.
facade.
yep,
Okay.
In the same color?
Painted.
Painted too. Yep.
painted brick color.
That's fine.
Should we not ask for a cut sheet?
I mean, I think that they can, yeah, we can ask for that. That'd be,
Because we could end up with something very stainless steel. there.
It's got to be painted.
Yeah, we can stipulate that it's painted.
Okay.
No cut.
Item number 4 is at 254 South Street. The applicant here is hoping, and again, this is part of a kitchen renovation, where they're going to be moving some appliances and the layout of the kitchen around. And so they're hoping to remove one existing window on the first floor. This is on the side towards the middle or rear of the home. And they would like to move the location of the window over, but also replace it with just a half-hung window. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, there's going to be a sink under that particular window. And they are proposing to use, excuse me, I believe it's the Marvin Elevate. And
Any concerns or questions about this one?
I just note the funky asymmetry that will result, but it is a good way towards the back of the house, and I just am tickled that in 20 years, somebody in this commission is going to say, why don't they line those things up? It's the quirky nature of historic homes that they are renovated from time to time, and things move this way and that. So I don't want to be a slave to symmetry, I think, is what I'm saying in this particular case.
Okay. All right. Got no other questions for that particular one, then we can move on. Our last administrative approval item is number 5. This is for 2 Russell Street. The applicant here, they have a couple of proposed changes to what we've approved before. Do we have anyone here who could maybe better speak to just some of those changes?
Ryan Plummer with 2 International Group. So only have a few changes to the original approved plans. A couple of them are on Building 1. One of them was just kind of a cleanup item. On Building 1, as part of TAC, they asked us to cut the corner of the building, basically to pull it out of an easement. Somehow in our final HDC submission, the architect didn't pick that up, so we showed it on our 2-dimensional site plan, but the corner of the building was more rounded because of the TAC adjustment, so we've represented that here. Also on Building 1, the mechanical rooms, sprinkler room in particular, have to have direct access from the outside. We showed those with glazing previously and no door, so those have been updated to show the door and to show metal infill panels so that you're not looking into a mechanical room. The similar issue on Building 2, if you're walking down what we call the Muse, which is going from Portwalk Place towards the north end, and the backside of Building 2, if you look to the right, is the parking garage. We had glazing looking into the parking garage, so we updated that to show metal infill panels so that you're not looking into cars. The mechanical screening on all 3 buildings has been shrunk. The previous originally approved plans didn't have the fully detailed mechanical drawings, obviously. We realized over the course of finishing up our HVAC design that we didn't actually need to have as much mechanical screening as we showed previously because the equipment's a lot smaller on the roof than what we had assumed. And outside of that, we had a handful of street entrances. So we have, I think, 2 more retail spaces than what we had previously shown that are going to be direct access from the street. So we showed doorways there, whereas they were previously just shown as windows. And then the entrances for the mechanical spaces on Building 1.
That's great.
That's it.
All right, easy. All right, any concerns or questions about these changes? All right, great, thank you.
Okay. I'll just quickly run through those admin approval items just one more time, and then the commission will have a vote. So item 1 was 33 Jewel Court. It seems that the commission would like to have a stipulation that option 2 is the option to go with. Item number 2, 93 Pleasant Street. We had a stipulation that the venting is of a similar size to the other venting locations on that facade.
That's for South Street.
Oh, geez, I'm so sorry. Excuse me. 93 Pleasant Street, no stipulations. Item 3, 50 South School Street, unit number 4. The stipulation there was to match the venting sizes and to then paint it to match the brick. Item number 4, 254 South Street, no stipulations. And item 5, 2 Russell Street, no stipulations.
On 254 and 50 South Street,
Yes.
are we going to paint it brick or paint it black like all the other ones?
That's a great question. I think I heard we wanted to paint it to match the brick so it could blend in the best.
Yeah, that's generally what our usual.
Okay.
Painted black, white.
Okay.
Great. Can I have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Seconded?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'd like to abstain from voting in as much as I did not support the 2 Russell Street application and its previous, and I don't see how I can support this.
Okay, all right. Chair votes aye. Thank you. Okay, great. We're moving on. The third item for tonight's meeting is the city council referral. I'm happy to talk about this. I don't know if, Isaac, you want to present it, or if
Sure.
if Councilor Blaylock knows much about it, but we can.
Yep. 185 Orchard Street is a recently subdivided property in Portsmouth. It previously was part of, I believe it was 15 Lafayette Street, which is directly facing the historic district. The lot was a very long lot that was able to be cut sort of in half, with the back half then facing Orchard Street. Essentially, because the lot in its entirety before was in the HDC, it being subdivided still meant that new lot was under our jurisdiction. However, that doesn't really make sense given that the rest of Orchard Street is not in the district. So the request from the homeowners would be to just have their parcel removed from the HDC, and so that they can move forward with their redevelopment plan. And this has already gone before the city council. They wanted a recommendation from the planning board and from the historic district. Planning board has recommended removal, and so we are here to give our recommendation this evening.
Great. Well, and I'll just update everyone in that last month I did go and meet at the planning department to start the process of clarifying these boundary lines. So you can see on the map here, I don't know if you can pull up right there. You can see how just to the north, basically it's just a curved line following Middle Street. That is the boundary of the district, which doesn't really make much sense and is not how district boundaries are generally drawn as far as what I've ever seen. So we're in the process of cleaning that up at the planning department level, where we will simply follow the property lines of all of the properties that are facing Middle Street, so that corners and things don't get cut off from properties that face other streets that shouldn't be in the historic district, and make it a lot simpler.
So I have a question. I thought it was a 100-foot corridor.
Right.
Okay, that doesn't seem to indicate a 100-foot corridor.
I don't know exactly.
How we got over to Orchard Street, I don't understand that. Because I distinctly remember that on Union Street, that large apartment building that was approved, we had to look at it, even though just the little sliver of it was within the Historic District Commission. So now we're talking about a house that is not within the 100 feet.
So it looks like what happened is that they did the whatever 100-foot or however many feet buffer, and then as to maybe later on to clarify, they took in all of the Lafayette Road properties up until South Street, but when they did that, they used the property lines and not the buffer, which took in that whole parcel that faced Lafayette. So it's a mess, which
It
is
is,
why
yeah.
the planning department, I was working with the planning department to clean that up, and they will bring a recommendation to the city council to have those lines and boundary lines clarified, so.
Yeah. Just the city council was definitely, in agreement. They wanted to make sure that the Historic District Commission was in agreement and, in respect to the planning board as well.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I remember we've had a couple other applicants where like just the corner of their property was, so I think it'd be beneficial for all when it does get cleaned up.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yep.
It's
Kind of too bad, because I think that the house is really appropriately styled for, where it sits,
This particular one?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think.
No, we probably would have approved it.
Yeah, and again, it's a new house, so that,
Right.
yeah. But it does look nice.
Yep.
But that's fine.
Mr. Adams?
This change that's being proposed, does this fall in line with the direction that you feel that you're moving the commission's boundaries?
Yes, and we'll certainly talk about it here before they bring it to the city council. We'll come and just clarify
The
it.
readjusted maps
Yeah, and we'll make sure that everybody understands what is being proposed, which ones will be cut out or, included and stuff like that, so that we're all in agreement that the new boundaries will make sense, and recommend the planning board bring it forward to the city council.
Well, I'd like to voice a minority report and say that like you said, that this house could be approved by this board as it's designed. I'm not crazy about giving up territory. I don't know why we want to do that.
I think it's more of the intent of what the historic district boundaries were drawn for, and in this area, the intent was that it takes in the corridor of Middle Street and Lafayette Road. All the side streets, as much as they absolutely could be, they pretty much are a historic district, just have no, oversight, but it's a very historic neighborhood. But I think this particular part, was focused on that corridor and not the side streets.
Understood, but I'm going to stick to my view that, and it may be a minority view, that I think it can remain in the district and still be accommodated.
Okay.
I have similar sentiments to Mr. Ryan, in that I live in a dwelling that is in the historic district, and I find it not impossible to understand, but difficult that someone would want to give up the level of protection that I see the historic district provides you as a homeowner, not so much against, but in concert with your neighborhood. And I never felt like in the process of working on my home, things that I've done, have sacrificed anything to make accommodations to the desires of the Historic District Commission. So I'm kind of mixed on the whole thing, and giving up property, things like this frequently bite you in the end.
Sure, it can. I mean, does anybody else want to chime in about it? I think that forgive me in that this is what I do on my normal daily job. So having this one property be included in the historic district that is focused on Middle Street would be incongruous, and then would be not as much protecting the neighborhood around Orchard Street as much as it could. I feel like if that is the goal, then we would want to expand the boundary to include all of Orchard Street.
So moved?
And then, and then you'd go all the way down Willard Street and down Wybird, and, you know, you'd encompass the whole neighborhood. So I don't think, I don't know about you guys, but I think our nights are often long enough. I don't think we need to cover anymore. So that's a longer process.
It's just, I did a tour of the property and the site, and was struck by a lovely stone foundation Queen Anne dwelling right across the street from it, thinking that this is could be a candidate in any historic district.
That whole neighborhood, absolutely.
Yeah, and I also remember the comments, maybe not the whole wildness of there's opportunity for, but the comments that were made when an infill building was built on Wybird Street a few years back, and how people that I spoke with anyway felt that it was not the most appropriate style of building, considering the buildings in the neighborhood. And you know, I marvel at the whole concept of having a historic district to maintain those kinds of characteristics. So it's difficult.
I would just also add that I think if this remains in the district and they say want to change out a storm door or something, I think the board will understand where it is without it having to leave the district. I think they'll understand the applicant's need to change the storm door and not hold them to the same standard we would, say, on the south end right in the middle. So, you know, in a surrounding area of a feature historic home. So I don't think we should advertise that it's a bad thing to be in the district and to retreat from it. And, you know, that's just, this is just a recommendation, but that's my recommendation.
Yes.
Do we know if there's any real estate value to being in the HDC as opposed to being out of it?
Depends on your point of view.
Yes.
I'll just state, just this little hiccup
Yeah.
is delayed their whole house a year in construction costs. You know what I mean? Like, there's another side to this. There's a whole, like, you guys can keep coming up and asking for, 5 more cakes and stuff, but I'm going to make a motion to approve.
I will,
To remove.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
so I'm going to second that, and my reasoning is that we had already talked about redrawing these lines in any case, and when that redrawing happens, this property would have fallen out. And the other reason is that I think that this house should go with the neighborhood that it belongs to, and once this subdivision happens, it belongs to the Orchard Street neighborhood. And unless we are going to change the boundary of the historic district to include this entire neighborhood, and that would include a lot, I think we should allow this lot to go with its neighbors.
All right. Unless there's any other discussion, just
Is there a binding vote here?
Yeah, it's
It's a recommendation.
an opinion.
It's, okay. So we have to, okay, understood. Gotcha.
Why isn't it a binding vote?
It is,
Oh, it is,
as a
okay.
recommendation.
Yeah, right.
all right. Fine. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed.
Chair votes aye. So we're voting to recommend it along with the planning. Well, I don't know what the planning board has voted on, but,
They also recommended to have it removed.
Right.
So.
all right, well, we will have this conversation continued as we work on redrawing these boundaries around Lafayette and clarifying the boundaries going forward. So, all right. The next is a request for rehearing. It is I'm sorry, I realized I didn't even read in this city council referral before. I apologize. But do I need to read it in, or since we voted on it anyway?
It's not technically a public hearing, so I don't know that it needs to be read in. But we had our vote, so.
Sorry. It's January, it's a new year.
Your uncle.
request from Glenn Brown, owner, for property located at 50 Maplewood Avenue, unit number 305, for a rehearing for the administrative approval that was granted for property located at 238 Deer Street on November 6, 2024. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 125 as Lot 3 and lies within the Character District 4 and Historic Districts. So you've read through the letter proposing the request for rehearing. Are there any questions on this? Yes.
No questions, but in the past, when we've had requests for a rehearing, it's not a public.
No.
It's not a public hearing.
And I'm sorry, I apologize, it's not a public hearing. This is going to be an administrative discussion here on whether or not we think that a rehearing is warranted.
Okay.
So, but we got your letter, thank you, so we
Okay,
have
so
the information.
I'm not presenting tonight.
No, but thank you.
Sorry. Thank you.
So,
Poor guy.
yes, I
out there.
apologize. But yes, this is just an administrative thing, so we will vote on whether or not we think that a rehearing is warranted, either because we've done something that is procedurally out of line, or there's new information that has been brought to us that we didn't have before, or, you know, we think they've made the case that we haven't applied our criteria and findings of fact and all the things, you know, our decision for this one correctly. So, are there any thoughts? Yes.
Yeah, on the criteria, the findings of facts, excuse me, I mean, you know, we frequently say if it's the back of the building, you know, we're a little bit more lenient on the back of the building, thinking unless somebody comes up and says, well, you know, it may be the back of the building, but I see it. And then we, you know, it certainly merits more discussion. This merits more discussion. I don't think procedurally we made a mistake in that aspect, but it certainly merits more discussion because of the fact that it is plainly visible from this person's condominium, which is right next to it. It's a terrible situation. It could be fixed, but, you know, they could build the fence higher. But I just think that our finding of facts were slightly askew.
Well, the slight abnormality for this is that this is an administrative approval that they are asking for a rehearing, which
Even worse.
which is harder because we don't generally have written out findings of fact for that, but is
Yes.
applied to the findings of fact that we had for the original approval of the entire application. So it's, again, it's a little complex, but it's whether this rehearing would be on this particular administrative approval and that decision.
Are they requesting another administrative approval, or do they want to go to public hearing? Or it doesn't matter?
So if a rehearing was granted,
Yes.
It then automatically becomes a notice public hearing.
Okay.
So,
I thought I saw that
so
somewhere.
even though it was an administrative approval, the rehearing process itself is technically a public
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yes.
Typically, as you stated, typically we would rehear something if there was new evidence, new facts, new data. And I'm not seeing that necessarily being presented. I'm seeing, didn't like the decision we made. And that's basically the only thing that's new, that we're covering the previous meeting. Now, I think it's not a good condition visually, but I think we've done our job in protecting the historic district and the public historic district standpoint. Maybe something needs to be done in the zoning regulations for something of this nature. This is unique. I think I think it is a difficult thing to look at on a daily basis outside your window. So, but I don't think we can fix it here. I just don't think that we have that, that charge to take that on.
I look at this and wonder what we did that was wrong that could be rectified. And what I see is the thing that we may have done inappropriately and therefore could retract or retrace our steps is accepting this as an administrative decision. At the time it was presented to us as a modification, as I recall, don't take me to court on this, but as I recall, it wasn't more units, it wasn't larger units, it was just simply that the units had to be moved up in the air. And the adaptations to the design to mitigate these things as it had been previously done was a fence that was not only a protective fence, but not obscured, but confused the view so that these things weren't the most apparent thing out your bedroom window, so to speak. But moving them up seemed like a difficult, but really not a design problem in that sense. It was the same stuff, it was just a little bit in a different place. So if we did something that was wrong, it was trying to take this on as an administrative approval, which, by the way, I don't think is really in our purview to change. And as far as the way we follow procedure, I don't see how we did any of that wrong. But as I think Mr. Wyckoff said, I feel for the applicant. I think we all understood where this was going at the time, but didn't feel like we could do anything to protect that, other than encourage them to speak with the owner.
I just want to say one more thing. Fortunately, I went back on the minutes, and I was the one that made the recommendation to approve all the administrative approvals in this. According to the letter that we've got from the owner of 238 Deer, he's saying that some of the units were increased in size. That's all I can say. So whether we're taking, that as a word, but he is saying that some of the units are much larger than were as presented in June 6th.
Well, that would have to be clarified by Vincent Hayes in the planning department as to whether or not that's.
John, the air conditioning units or the actual units?
The condensers.
So, and that's not really our job to check on that, but if Vincent finds that it is, that they are changed from what was approved, then that would come back to us, and that would be a thing, so.
It has been pointed out that in the process of designing, they went from 21 condensers in this location down to 15. So, that did happen. I think I think it's too bad that the owners, the people who are finishing this completion, are not willing to make a slightly higher railing, but they also claim that the railing is high enough to cover all but an inch or two of the condenser, which means that the picture that the gentleman has provided us, which is not fun to look at, we all agree, is not what the final view is going to be. There is going to be a fence, and much less of those condensers will be seen. I don't know whether the fence is going to be considered adequate by the neighbor and the view much improved, but we approved a lower number of these condensers. We approved a fence that was supposed to provide screening. So I don't see that there's anything procedurally that we have done differently.
All right, well, we can take a vote now, and, certainly the applicant is welcome to continue the process of appealing and moving it up to the ZBA, I believe, would be looking at it next. So,
Correct.
Okay, well, let's take a motion on whether or not to approve a rehearing.
What's this vote?
How do you want to phrase it?
I don't know. How do you want to phrase it?
I think it would be
In support.
to grant the
Grant a
rehearing,
rehearing
and then
or-
we would vote,
Yeah,
and we'll
Against
see how that,
yeah,
Yeah.
that works.
Okay.
so.
I'll make the motion to grant a rehearing.
Okay. A second. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
Okay. So
So two,
2 in favor for the rehearing,
1, 2, 3, 4.
Opposed.
and chair votes
So,
opposed to the rehearing.
Isn't Rich in favor?
No.
I think.
What?
Oh,
It was
okay, you
just
did.
Saying
Okay.
here.
It was just yourself,
Sure,
John.
make sure you
so-
get your negatives and your
Okay.
positives right. So the motion is to approve a request to rehear.
Right.
So if you said no,
You
you're
don't
denying
want
it.
Right.
Okay.
We have a voice vote?
Yes, let's do a roll call, just in case.
Yes, that's a great idea.
All right, so this is to approve a rehearing. Dr. Brown,
Yes.
Opposed.
Opposed.
Mr. Wykoff,
Yes.
No.
and
No.
the chair votes no. So. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. All right. Next is a public hearing, old business, petition of J. Ganesh LLC, owner for property located at 201 Islington Street, wherein permission is requested to remove and replace fencing as per plan on file in the planning department. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 138 as Lot 33 and lies within the Character District 4L2 and Historic Districts. Who do we have here to present this?
Good evening, everyone.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you. Can you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, sorry. My name is Dilav Patel, and I am one of the owner of this place.
Okay, great. Thank
Yep.
you. Tell us what you would like to do here.
So yeah, we just wanted to put the fencing around the that dumpster area and behind the building, because the old one that we have is like all rotten, and some of the part is like it's already damaged. So we just wanted to give the nice look over there, putting the 6 feet high fencing over there to make it more appealing for the business.
Okay. I think do we have, well, okay, fine. Do we have any questions for this?
Could I just clarify, or
Yeah.
just to clarify one thing? So the proposal would be to remove that existing chain link that goes across the whole back of the property as well, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
All the fencing.
Yep.
We'll remove all the fencing and we'll replace with this
Okay.
white one.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you.
I think we might at one point like some sort of plan. If you can give us like the property plan just to show exactly where the fencing is going, whether or not it's all along the back. It looks like in the photograph you've provided it goes up the sides a bit. So,
On the sides, would it be that the fence just goes to where the side entrance points are, or would that be going all the way to the corner of Islington Street?
Just the side of the where the entrance is.
Okay, just where like the curb
Yes.
roll, okay.
Yeah. We
And
don't wanna-
same on the opposite side, correct?
Yeah, on the opposite
Okay.
side, we already have the landscaping, so
Yep.
we're not gonna put that anything over there.
Okay, perfect.
But we don't wanna block the view of the property if there is landscaping and everything, so we are, yeah.
Okay.
any other questions? They're proposing a solid, essentially vinyl fence.
Essentially.
Yeah, essentially solid, is what I was saying.
In the process of doing this, are you going to remove all of the fence posts that exists and all of the metal posts for the chain link fencing also?
Yeah, actually it was only the wooden fences out there, and a lot of fences in back of the building is very old. Some of them is damaged, and it's the replacement is of right now.
please.
So the existing metal chain link fence, is that going to stay?
No, it was the wooden one, not the metallic one.
Right, but the metal link is there.
Are you
Still.
going to remove the metal fence?
Metal link, I think that's in the back of the building, which
Yes.
is the part of the other, like, the tenants, like the neighbors.
Okay.
It's not
So
our,
that's not
it's
your
not our
fence.
part of the property,
Okay.
actually.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
I spoke with one of the abutters, and they said it was your fence.
I'm so sorry, sir, but we just purchased this property like in March, and I was under impression that metallic one was never ours. But we can find out more if that's the one, but we are not touching that at all. Our goal is to put this one, behind the building, so we can just hide that part from the back of the building, where we cannot see the metallic, the fence.
Okay.
And plans for shielding a dumpster?
The dumpsters is basically, the way it will look like this.
It's just going to be
Like,
open?
yeah.
So I guess my question is, your building is in the historic district, and to the extent that we can make buildings or improve buildings that were built after, I should say, before the historic district existed, to make the building more compatible or look a little more in keeping with the historic district. Your building is obviously not historic, and there's not much you can do to change
Right.
a gas station. So we get that. But to put up a vinyl fence when most of the fences that we ask for in the historic district are wood, because most of the building material in the historic district tends to be wood. So I'm wondering about, putting more modern and plastic materials here with your building when what we're trying to do is keep things more historic. So, I know that people prefer these because of maintenance issues, but I don't see how this helps your building sit into the historic district more fully.
Yes.
I'm in support of this. I'm normally not in support of vinyl fences. However, this is very commercial, a gas station, a large parking lot. It affects a historic board fence from a distance. It looks like that. And it's going to be white, and I just feel that in this location that I'm more able to deal with it than on a residential property in a neighborhood.
Yes.
It also hides a less historic fence, a chain link fence, which we would not ever allow. So I think for aesthetics, I would approve it too. I'd be in favor of it too.
Any other questions? Or yes, Mr. Adams?
Madam Chairman, I spent some time at the site and spoke with some neighbors. And one of the things, I have the same knee-jerk reaction, I think, as many of you to the introduction of the plainest possible material that one could possibly, in plastic fencing. But the absolute on-the-ground reality is almost every property that abuts this, 2 properties deep, is actually covered with vinyl plastic materials themselves. There's a property directly behind this. There's a change in grade, but there's a property directly behind this that actually has the same fence that he's proposing at a lower level at the back edge of their property. So I wonder if we're shoveling something against the tide here. I'm not saying that I think this is great, but I think that it is in keeping with the current situation, and if we're looking forward to a better time, it will be a while in coming, but this is all plastic. It will all degrade and break and fall apart and need to be replaced again, probably while some of you are still on the commission. But I do have an issue with the plan that's been presented. First of all, I'm still not convinced about the metal fencing, and I'd like that removed because I find it an eyesore. But as we look at the building from Islington Street, on the right-hand side, they want to return this, it looks like 2 panels. It might be more, it could be less. I think it's 2 panels. I walked it. It's 2, maybe 3 panels to that side entry. Where there currently is some way overgrown, some sort of shrubbery, we'll call it, to be kind. And I don't think that kind of 6-foot-tall fence at the edge of this property, facing that street, not between properties, but facing the street, I don't think that part along that side street is appropriate. I think that some low shrubbery, as they have on the left-hand side, solves the problem of unwarranted entry and doesn't create a wall that I don't think that neighborhood needs there. So I'd like to see this plan slightly adjusted, but otherwise move forward.
Okay. Anybody else?
Which side street are you?
The side street on the right.
Okay, all right, I agree, yeah.
I just want to say welcome to Larry Booz. Thank you for joining us.
Huh?
Thank you for joining us. Welcome.
No, you're welcome.
Why
right,
bother? We're almost
I
over.
know. Any other questions?
Yeah, I think that I would like to see a site plan to show the extent of this. I can live, begrudgingly, I can live with the use of a plastic fence, but I'd like to know how far it extends to the left and right of your building. And you say you're not going to enclose the dumpster. Is that correct?
Yeah, and if you would like, we can enclose that as well for the dumpster area.
Okay.
So to answer your question very precisely, on the left side of the building, which is we have some nice landscaping. So we are not planning to do anything over there on the left side of the building where the entrance is, right? Mm-hmm. On the right side, if you want us to put the landscaping instead of the fencing, we can do that as well.
Okay.
Right? But we don't have any landscaping over there right now. Mm-hmm. But if you prefer that way, we can do that as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Could I suggest that we continue this and that the gentleman come back with the site plan and he have a chance to investigate the ownership of that metal fence, so we know exactly whether he can or can't take it down and whether it should or should not be included. And then we can get more details, and we're not doing lots of stipulations and guesswork.
I think that they'll probably, I mean,
This is a complete application.
yes, I think we could either do that, we could continue it, or we could approve it with the stipulation that they bring back a site plan, because I believe that the fence installation company, whoever you have coming to do the fence installation, will probably give you a plan, draw out where exactly on the property it's going to go. And that could be brought back to us for approval, so that they can continue on with it. And they'll have to figure out who owns the metal fences and whether or not they can take them down, because they're in the way. So-
And if it is, I mean, if the neighbor is fine, we can also, remove that metal fencing as well. I mean, we don't mind doing that as well. Okay. We are open to do that. I just want to make it look good for both sides. I don't want to create a problem for our neighbors that doesn't look good for them. And at our own expenses, we can just take that metal fence, because it is, I see it is also damaged in the back of the building, that metal fencing, So we are in interest of making it look for all our neighbors and for us as well. And few bucks here and there, but we can help that as well.
Okay.
Very good.
Does anybody have strong feelings about enclosing the dumpster, or? It's not covered right now.
I think that the most impact of the dumpster is on the next door neighbors, and this fence will take care of that. That's where I am with it.
Yeah, let's see if there are any public opinion, and then we can finalize a vote. So is there anyone from the public wishing to speak to, for, or against this application? No one online? All right, fine. So I close the public hearing, and let's get a motion to let them move forward.
Yeah, I move that we approve this as presented.
Do you want it as presented, or?
Did you want
Or
to?
what?
There were a couple of stipulations
Or bring
that
back
were thrown out. One was that the fence would just sort of run the
Just along the
rear,
back.
and it would not come up the side on the right as shown in the image here. So it would just end in front of the cars. It wouldn't come around to the side. The other stipulation was that if the existing metal chain link fence is, theirs, and they do have the right to take it down, they've agreed to. So I think we could stipulate that that gets removed. If, obviously, if it's not their ownership, that's we can't stipulate that. But so I think those were the two stipulations that we sort of had.
There was also the question of whether or not we need a site plan, if they could bring in just a sketch that could be approved.
Because I'm a little unsure of how far the left side is going.
Yep.
So this is the opinion of the board, right? This isn't just one stipulation that somebody has said.
There are a few stipulations if you're willing to adopt them into your motion.
Yeah, sure.
I'm sorry, just one more
Yes.
picture. I think you might have missed that picture, but this will give you a nice look of the left side of the building. Sorry. So that small picture
Yes.
right there.
Oh. Okay. Yeah.
All right, so,
That's the left side.
I will second
okay,
Hans' recommendation with those two stipulations.
are we having 2 or 3 stipulations?
Three stipulations.
Okay.
The three, I suppose.
The third is to enclose the dumpster?
No, the third is to have a site plan.
Oh, okay,
Site plan.
yes.
Nothing on the left side,
Brought back.
and I forgot the third one.
It's the site plan.
The site, just a site
Okay.
plan that they can
Right,
bring.
okay.
So there are 3 things.
Sure.
One is that,
Oh, and remove the
right,
metal.
the fence is only going in the back, so it will not wrap around the right side.
Sure.
That you may take down the metal fence if your neighbors allow you to, if you own it. And that the third is that you'll come back with some sort of site plan to show exactly where the fence is going to go. And like I said, I believe that the fencing company will need to provide one anyway, but it will be good to have on record for the city so that the planning board, the planning department and the inspection department can come out and make sure that what was approved is actually
Sure.
done.
So
And
moved.
I'm sorry, just one quick question. And I'm sorry if I'm asking you a very dumb question because this is my very first time in any permit hearing. When you say the site plan, does that mean that you want the plan where they tell you exactly from building how many feet or inches it gonna be like installed on, right? The fencing and everything?
And how long it is. You can use the, even just a tax map plan
Sure.
and draw on it, that's fine, but you have some dimensions to show how long the fence will be, how
Sure.
far from the building.
Got it. That is something I can send you an email to and, okay.
Yes.
All right.
That's what I said. That's what I moved. Yeah, that's my motion.
Very clarifying for
Whatever you
the
said.
applicant. All right.
Second.
The findings of fact, please.
Well, conservation and enhancement of property values for purpose and intent, and compatibility of design with surrounding properties for criteria and finding of fact.
That's pretty real.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, guys. Appreciate that.
All right. Our last, well, almost last piece of business is public hearing Of new business, petition of Sarah Jane Federo and Joseph Crawford Wolfkill III, owners, for property located at 192 Newcastle Avenue, wherein permission is requested to allow exterior renovations to an existing structure, replacement windows, as per plans on file in the planning department. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 207 as Lot 51-1 and lies within the single residence B and historic districts. Who is here to present this?
Hi, my name is Sarah Federo. I'm here with my husband, Joseph Wolfkill, and I'm here with our builder, Tom Antolino.
Hi. Thank you. Welcome. Please
Proceed.
present what you have for us.
Happy to do so. I think we can all agree that it's a great week for us to come here and maybe beg a little for approval to replace 15 of the windows in our beautiful yet historic home. These windows are not original to the structure, but they are in pretty tough shape. We've really stress tested the shrink wrap on them right now. So we're really hoping that at the end of this project, you have absolutely no idea that we have changed the windows. It is our utmost importance that the integrity of our historic home, which is our first home, remains intact, and that we can really preserve the history of the area. We have selected a product based upon the other side of the building, which is 192 Unit 2. The builder, and we don't have a whole lot of details about what they did, but they have the Anderson 400 series window in there. So we are requesting that specific product to bring both sides of our property into alignment. It is, our half, but we do believe that it will look really great if we are all within alignment. We plan to paint and do everything accordingly. We plan to keep as much molding as possible that is not rotten. We will not be touching the frame or the casing. We really want to maintain the integrity of the house. Did I forget anything? They kind of like do their own thing right now. A lot of opening on their own. There are storms on there right now, and our intention is to also maintain the appearance. So the 2/2 is ultimately what we're looking for as well. I'd love to remove the pretty awful storms though.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? I know you provided a lot of information.
Always happy to. If anybody knows anything about the Captain Charles Chase House, we're also in the process of trying to learn more about it.
Great. Okay. Mr. Wyckoff?
I would just like to say that at least we have from the contractor a decent proposal that we can read and see what he's going to do, so we don't have to ask questions about, are you going to patch the trim after you remove the storm windows, et cetera. Thank you very much. With the Anderson windows are a very good replacement. They're going to match the windows that are next to it. I'm just wondering, did we approve those 2/2 windows sometime in the past? Is
The other Andersons that are
Yeah.
there?
I'm so disappointed that we didn't insist on 6/6 because.
But it would have only been part of the building, and I think that was probably the issue.
I know, but now
Now it's the whole building.
it's the whole building, and it would really, it
Yep.
would be much more appropriate for a 1740
Yep.
building to have that pattern of your windows rather than 2/2, which is, screams out Victorian, really.
It's still part of the history of the house.
But that's my comment.
Anybody else have any comments or questions?
Do you know when those windows were put in, your neighbors?
We do our neighbors' windows.
We don't know exactly. He's a contractor. He's owned the building since like 90 or 91. We think he did the replacement on those windows on his side, maybe within the last 10 to 15 years. He redid the facade of the entire house sometime in the last 5 or 6, we believe, but he did not replace the windows on our side. Excuse me.
Mr. Ryan, did you?
You said you were going to take out the 2/2, but you didn't say what you were going to put in.
No, we're going to replace it with
We're gonna-
2/2.
Yeah. So our goal would be to fit the Anderson window. We like that product too because you can customize it so well. So we are replacing it with a 2/2.
If you look at the picture of the house there, you can see where the roof line kind of divides. That left side is not owned by us, so we own the right side.
I'm sorry, couldn't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. The left side, if you see where the roof line kind of divides, is owned by a different individual. He replaced with the Anderson 400. Our side on the right side, we're looking to match his.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
So I had a question about the white standard full aluminum screen. So in the historic district, we prefer the half screens.
Okay.
And are these screens inside, or are we having white screens on the outside? Just want to be sure.
Great question, Tom.
They're outside. All Andersons are.
Yeah, it's going to be an
Okay.
exterior.
So I guess we're not, it's a permanent color, right? So we have purview over that?
I think we can.
Sorry, you'll have to come to the microphone. Just
Hi, Tom Ansolino. I think we can paint those screens, the white, so that it doesn't stand out.
Just from an aesthetic point of view, if you don't have white trim around
Sure.
the windows themselves, to have just a little screen frame.
Right, and these windows come in white, so they're going to be painted similar to the left side. It's like a moss green.
Oh, okay, good.
So paint to match.
Sure.
Yeah.
Excuse me, sir, did you actually examine the windows on, what we refer to the left-hand side of the building?
Yes, I did.
And did you think that that was a paint film? Did you think that was an appropriate paint film? Okay, I'll show my hand here. They look pretty crappy. That's a technical term. But is that what you're going to do? It looks like it was sponged on. Is it because the vinyl's hard to paint, or?
I think maybe because it has one coat.
Do you think that anyone's going to paint the rest of the windows on that side, or are they going to leave them white?
Is that our side?
Again, I can't speak for that owner because it's not our property. I can tell you that it's not his primary residence and that he doesn't actively live there. So he's there most days working on something inside the house. Don't know what. I can't speak to his intentions as to whether or not he's going to paint it. We're certainly happy to paint ours better than he painted his.
And if we're on the topic of paint, you'll actually notice we invite you to drive by our house whenever you want. But the half of the house that actually faces towards the south end is actually an absolute different color. So our goal is to get these windows done first, and then to actually paint the house in accordance with the rest of it.
Oh, yeah.
It's actually a two-tone house right now.
That'd be great.
yes, Mr. Booth.
Hi. First of all, my compliments that you come before the board with a premium product, not requesting vinyl or something like that, so my hat's off to you. I've used this product myself at home, and I can say without a doubt the part of our house that has it and the part of our house that's about to have it, there's about a 3-degree temperature difference. So you're getting something premium, you're going to love it. And regarding painting it, and perhaps I'll throw this out for the contractor, I don't know that the sashes come in this color, but Anderson has a whole slew of colors you can pick, so it's just not white or black. I believe there's other colors you can select, which, like I said, I don't know that it has that color, but it might help you in the painting process if you have something. But I not voting, but I appreciate the fact that you come with a premium product. So
That was all her.
Really excited to get some insulation in our house this week in particular. Yes.
With that in mind, like the stone color, or they have a bronze color with the 400 series, it would paint your darker color. It would accept it much better than white. I'm afraid white, which, you're going to show the brush marks, you're going to end up painting it 2 or 3 times trying to get it covered. But you can get a myriad of colors, but you have to move up to the architectural series, which is, costs more than an automobile. One window.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
All right. Any other comments or questions? I will just say that I'm always sad to see actual historic windows be removed. These may not be the originals, but they're still very old. And I'll just say, because I say it every time, repairing historic windows will provide provide your windows with a longer life than any very expensive replacement window, because wood windows are basically infinitely repairable because you can keep patching it, remaking it, and with a replacement window, at some point, might not happen while you guys are there, but at some point in the future, they'll have to be tossed. So, just going to say, I'm always sad to see historic windows go, but I do think that with half of the house already having been replaced, it makes a better case for the rest of the house coming into consistency with itself. So I think that you've got everyone here. I do need to ask if there's anyone in the public who wants to speak to, for, or against this project. Nobody online? All right, so I'll close the public hearing and wait for a motion.
Thanks.
Ready?
I'll move to approve as presented.
I'll second.
I'll say the purpose and intent. Conservation enhancement of property values and review criteria finding of fact. It's consistent with, or no, it's, consistent with special defining character of surrounding properties.
Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Thank you. You have your,
Get your house
your approved.
warm.
Yes, as long as you got your, we didn't stipulate half screens, but it's what,
Half screen.
half screens should be put on these windows. Half
Half
screens.
screen.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Stay warm.
You as
You
well.
too.
Take care.
All right, we just have a couple more little things to go over. The last being the election of officers, which we moved to the end of the meeting last year, and I think it works better. We did it this year too, just so that we can have a complete meeting and have any discussion, I guess, at the end. So, thank you for having me as your chair for this past year. We'll just take, if anybody has any, what's the word I'm looking for?
Nominations?
Nominations, thank you. For chair and vice chair, we'll take that now.
I'd like to nominate Reagan Ed Margot as chair and vice chair for the upcoming year.
Make it
And
quick.
recognize your good work over the year, sure.
Sure.
I'll second it.
Thank you.
So since you two can't vote, can I vote yes on this?
No, it is an awkward thing. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, any opposed?
I was going to nominate myself again.
Go for it, John.
Just to be a pain. No, I think you've done a good job. It's all well and good. Keep it going. We're doing extra stuff.
And, yes, so, like I mentioned, one of the things we'll tackle this year is the redefining of the boundaries, and also getting this this extra chapter of our guidelines in, and basically, I just need to come up with a draft of what exactly we're looking for to hand to the consultant. I will present it to everyone here to make sure that everyone is in agreement with this is what we're looking for, and we'll get that kicked off this year as well, because I think the money's there in the department, we're ready to go.
Can I ask a question about these new boundaries?
Sure.
Would they include areas that are currently outside of the district?
No. Unless it's to define, if there is a really large parcel that faces on Middle Street or Newcastle Avenue that gets cut off, it would extend to wrap around the entire parcel.
Okay, so that we will be looking at potentially whole properties leaving the district? Is that-
Yes,
And
depending on
just to
where it is.
ease your mind, because I know what you're thinking, we did a rough sort of just look at, how many properties would be affected by this. Really, there's a small handful that would come out and a small handful that would be extended in. So we have a few on both sides. I don't think it was more than 4
Yes.
that were technically removed. It's a very small amount. It's really just to clean up the actual boundary lines on our map to have them make a little bit more sense for folks.
Yes.
Not to spend too much time beating a dead horse, but are we ever going to move forward on our certified legislative district
We are-
application?
Sorry, I guess we did not make that announcement. We were granted that status, so we do have that program. That was something that Nick had worked on to get all the materials together and to submit. It took quite a while. The state was going through some changes in the office that actually reviews and gives that status out. We did end up getting that, so we do have access to those funds. The next cycle for requesting funds for various projects would be in August, so we're going to be looking at.
We set up a committee to investigate and to make some suggestions to the board for things that we should seek funding for.
Helicopters, for instance.
We can do that, absolutely.
Yep.
Be great.
Yeah,
Because,
I'll find out more about that process, the timeline, what types of things we could ask for, all of that, and we can certainly get together and then see what.
Because it'd be
would
nice to be able
applicable.
to codify some of our issues and to be a little bit more progressive about some things and not cost the city coffers money to do that.
absolutely. I mean, I think we have a lot of holes or questions or things in some of our process or in the district itself that we could, we could get the money to figure those things out. So.
I see the commission in Portsmouth as being providing leadership for other commissions in the state, and in that sense, I think that we have the potential of spending that state money wisely.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Or at least spending it.
But definitely spending it.
Yeah.
Can neighborhoods go to city council and want to join the HDC?
I mean, yes.
Yes,
They
our
can,
properties.
Yeah, just as, same thing with the asking to, come
Yeah.
out of it.
Yeah.
People could certainly petition to come in.
Yeah, it's
Has that ever happened?
It's a zoning change.
I will be honest, not a question that I've asked or I've heard asked before, but it could happen.
What entity spearheaded the extension down to Second Street? Was that planning or HDC, or it wasn't the neighborhood?
It's just before my
I'm not
time.
entirely sure of the history of
Because
that. I would need to
remember
look
when
back.
When that was
Yeah, when it
extended.
stopped it
So
there.
someone or something
Before Duncan, yeah.
made that happen.
Right. Yep.
And so, whether it's
He's in
whether it's-
hiding.
whether it's a citizen coming forward,
They don't
or
live in
city
Portsmouth
council,
anymore.
or planning,
That's a good question.
anybody can bring it forward.
Yep.
So people who live in the Lincoln Street area or Wybird or wherever who are concerned about
More control over the
infill
neighbors and
or,
things like
you know,
that, absolutely.
I mean, for example, on Sagamore, two what appeared to be
Still in a
perfectly
meeting?
good homes were razed absolutely to
This
the
is
ground.
still,
Well, at the end of the day, it increases homeowners' property value, I think, because
It
if you
does.
have a protected neighborhood,
absolutely.
the quality of the houses go up.
All right. There are no other
Yeah, right.
motions to
Everything
adjourn?
goes up.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. This is our only.